whether either of you would have any desire for that or not, but I'll put it on. So,
Don't usually.
hmm?
I don't usually.
No. But when I'm on Zoom, I try to just do it as a habit because otherwise I forget. Because I tend to forget anyway. Why is that? Tai Chi improves memory.
Who said that?
Somebody. I'm sure somebody did. I don't remember who.
Well, having to learn the form, it certainly improves memory.
Yes, it does. So I'm going to talk about eventually opening and closing the shoulders and the hips, the pelvis. So shoulders and pelvis are actually fairly complex joints in the body. In the principle of the 6 combinations, we have to coordinate the shoulders and the pelvis. For anyone who has done body work or been involved with surgery, the ways in which they are connected are really incredible. And the Chinese have really looked at this a lot, and not just in terms of anatomy, but especially in terms of how the qi is coordinated between the two. So looking at the shoulder first, it's an interconnected system that is fairly complex. When a shoulder is really bad, it is one of the harder things to fix in the human body, mostly because they're so interconnected to other things. And I imagine Carol would agree with that. So first you have the shoulder blades, the scapula. And then you have the way the shoulder blades are connected to the ribs. And then you have to know how to open and close both the shoulder blades and the ribs. And then you have the acromioclavicular joint and the way in which the point of the shoulder's nest is connected to a point deep inside the armpit. And there is a point right behind the scapula as well. So all of these have to open and close, and that's a lot. So the shoulder girdle has come to mean all of the stuff that's inside your shoulder. It becomes one big piece. So it's important to keep in mind that the shoulders are not really one thing. In terms of movement, most people, when asked, what is your shoulder, will just put their hand on the point of their shoulder. From a Qigong point of view, the main thing about your shoulder is your shoulder blades, because that is what connects your shoulders to your spine. You cannot move your arm or anything from your elbow back without your shoulder blades moving. You can move your wrists and your elbow. You can move those and not move your shoulder blades. But if you move anything else, the shoulder blades have to move. So they are important. For many years, as you probably remember, Bruce called them the lost joints of the body, because most people don't really realize that their shoulder blades are the base of the shoulder. Come on, David. Your shoulder blades also connect to your ribs. So when you have a shoulder problem, it could be something that is frozen in the ribs. Now, there are several ways that the shoulder blades can open and close. In terms of opening and closing the shoulder blades, it is a question that something is being still and something is moving away from that point and coming back to it. Opening is moving away, closing is coming back to it. Or you might be condensing. What is usually done to try and give people a basic sense of their shoulder blades is to do some very simple movements. So I'm going to try to demonstrate some of these so that you really see what I'm talking about. So I got to do both a picture and I'm going to stay on this camera at the moment because I can stay close here. So,
And I get to see you this way and that way.
yeah, you can see both. So, first, just a sense of being able to lift the shoulders using the shoulder blades. So, it's just a movement up and down. But if you can see, that's using my shoulder blades. This is using my deltoids. And it's a different movement. So being able to move the shoulder blades up and down. Then we have two different movements that we sort of basically refer to as forward and back. We have the one where we can move the shoulder blades away from the spine and then back towards the spine. And you've both worked with that. I know that you can do that. The more difficult one is that the shoulder blades actually move back from the ribs and come back into the ribs. So opening is going back away and closing is coming back in. And then we'll do all of these in a minute. I'm not going to make you not do them. There is also, of course, rotation. And rotation may be with the scapula both moving together. And of course, they can go in either direction. And so there is that. And of course, then there could be moving in opposite directions. And you really have to try to make all of these movements happen from the shoulder blades and not from the deltoids. We'll come back to this in a minute. So as we go through these, you can stand up or you can sit down. It really won't make a big difference. I find them easier to do standing, but that's up to you. So we're going to just go through these. So again, just really endeavor to see if you can just simply, keeping the arms relaxed, let the shoulder blades lift your shoulders. And the movement will be smaller than what you would make if you use the deltoids. They will lift it higher. The scapula don't have as much range of motion. But you can feel it when it moves up. You should feel energy move up, certainly to the base of the neck, perhaps to the top of your head. And when they go down, energy should drop down the back and certainly down to the level of the hips. It can go all the way to the feet, but it may not when you first do it. If you use the deltoids, you will not get that feeling. So it's just one way of checking that you are doing it in an appropriate way.
You can almost, if you use the deltoids, you can almost do it without moving your scapula. It still feels like that.
Yes, absolutely. But we want all of this to be done by the scapula. Any question for you, Shelley?
Not yet. I had it on mute.
Oh, okay.
And we couldn't see your mouth to see if you were talking.
Okay. So then do the one that I think we're most familiar with, where we're feeling the scapula move away from the spine and then move back towards the spine. And really making sure that you're using the shoulder blades. And see if you could have a sense that as you move away from the spine, that's opening, and it moves back towards the spine, that it's closing. Sense of pulsing the energy. And then see if you can get the scapula to move away from your ribs and back into your ribs. And yes, it's an extremely small movement. You're not going to separate the scapula a long way. But there is that same sense that as the scapula move away from the ribs, you're opening. And as they come back in, you're closing. And one way to tell about this might be that you feel the pulsing flowing out your fingertips and in your fingertips. So any question about those?
And just, what's the breath doing? I know,
it's going.
It's going.
And you can do, the thing about
it either way.
Right, exactly. If you find it helpful to align with the breath, find which way works for you. Because it can go either way. Absolutely.
All good here.
Okay. You are good, Shelley. And leaving the arms relaxed, first just lift one scapula separately and release it down. So just being aware that you can just do one, that they might not both move at the same time. So just try both sides.
That's trickier not to Not to balance, not to go down with one and up with the other.
It is. That's our tendency, is to alternate them, but isolating is what you're trying to do here. And then getting the scapula to rotate. So going forward and up and back, in and down. And just getting the scapula to make that movement. And reverse it. And try not to let yourself fall into involving the deltoids, but keep the scapula the moving element here. And then, of course, now indeed alternating those circles. And reverse. Yeah. Good. So questions about that at all?
So the scapula has its own set of muscles separate from the deltoids that we're using.
Yep. You can't get it.
You get one of those little rubber fingers.
I know. Okay, we did that. And we did that. Then we did that. And obviously, doing these exercises will loosen up your shoulder blades so that they can move more easily and fluidly. And I also might mention that with virtually all upper back and neck problems, these are great exercises to improve those. So any questions about that at the moment?
Not right now.
Okay. So then we look at the pelvis. And it has several parts which coordinate with each other, and it's not one solid thing. So obviously there is the top of the hip, and there is the hip socket, and not to mention the qua, of course. So this one I think you have to stand up for. It's
Hard to move it sitting down.
It's hard to move the pelvis sitting down. So the first thing is we want to think about moving the upper edge of the pelvis. and the fact that it can rotate up and rotate down. So it can move up and move down. And it's probably a pretty small movement. Also, you have the sides of the pelvis, and actually each side can lift. And it's not going to be much. You can lift one side, let it relax down, and lift the other. The movement is very small. And then an important area to be aware of course, is the sacrum, which is also attached to the pelvis. You can sit down for a minute. I'll probably make you get up again.
Good for us. Good for our pelvises.
Yeah, right. At each side of your sacrum, those pieces of the pelvis are sometimes referred to as the wings of the pelvis. So you have to be aware of not only the front and the sides of your pelvis, but also the wings, because if the wings start tilting, they have a nasty habit of causing the sacrum to go out of place, and that can be a real problem. So what we want to be aware of is that when you do every one of the movements in God's, especially movement 4, there has to be some internal movement inside of the wings. There has to be some internal movement in the hip socket. And there needs to be some internal movement in the front of the pelvis. You don't have to do it to an extreme degree. It doesn't have to be very much at all. But what is important is that these parts of your pelvis must have some movement. In Qigong, you're not going to make your pelvis come up and go down on the sides that much, but you want to do it so you can get the sense of what all the things are that can move, and that to some micro degree they are moving. So if one of these parts doesn't move, you can get problems. And we'll look at the perineum in just a moment. We just did that. There's one more thing. Right at the bottom of your pelvis, the two sides connect to a ring, and that ring has to have some movement. But if it is too much, it causes the pelvis to go up on one side or the other, and that's not good either. So your perineum has to stay open the whole time you are doing all these movements in God's, and you should not feel any strain in the center of your perineum from the ring that connects the two sides of your pelvis, and that's very important. Now, if you get your Kwa opening and closing in Qigong, you want to have your Kwa link to all of these things we've talked about today. I have just described them. So the Kwa is going to control exactly how much they open and close. If you were to try and focus on all of these individual bones and parts of the pelvis and the shoulders, the odds are you would actually unbalance yourself, unbalance your pelvis, because it's hard to keep it all together. By simply having your Kwa close and open, By simply having your claw open and close, it will cause everything inside your pelvis to move. We also have another thing that's a little bit tricky. And this, too, will be happening in God's plane in the clouds. Unless I don't know whether you can see this on Zoom at all. Carol may be able to see it. I'm just going to put my hands here on the sides of my pelvis, because one of the things that we really want to have a sense of is that the pelvis can shrink and can expand. So it's a very small movement, but it actually can shrink and expand. You want to try that? That's a new one, huh? So you're thinking not just of the sides moving or the front and back moving, but all of it moving together. So shrinking in and expanding out.
I'm wanting a picture of what the pelvis looks like.
Oh.
Because I used to have a skeleton.
Gosh, I didn't think of doing that. Actually, I can't do that at the moment.
No, I know. Because I'm unclear on what you mean by the front.
So
of the pelvis. I mean, I've got.
No, the front really is kind of that front
bone.
edge, and it's all involved. It's the whole thing. I mean, the pelvis is really kind of,
It's like this.
yeah, basically sort of shaped like that. But there is a sense, you have to, for me, it has a sense of being spherical.
Huh.
So when we talk about it in the way we are at the moment, energetically, it is not just the bones doing this. It's really the whole thing being able to do this.
David, I'm not sure what's driving. I can get the up and down.
Yep.
But I'm just not sure what's driving this. I mean, I can use my breath.
Yep.
And feel in and out, but
I
don't know what else to do to move it.
Intention.
I mean, I think of it as, I mean, it's one bone.
Yes, it is.
I'm
well, pretty much. Pretty much. Sacrum is.
The sacrum's in there, so.
A little loose, and I understand what you're saying, and you have to, and what Carol's pointing out, and we were talking about here really is referring to what your question is too, Shelley, is you're not only thinking of this as a solid bone. We're talking about the pelvis or the pelvic area, but it is like all of these things, an energetic sphere. And so it is energetically being able to shrink and expand. And that actually does cause some physical movement, but it's very small. And it is as so much of what we are beginning to move towards at this point, Shelley, intention and energy, not just a physical movement.
So the physical movement is not isolated from the other movements.
No, it is a response to the movement of the energy and the focus of your intention.
Okay.
And use the breath. That's fine. I'm not saying to ignore your breath, and that can be very helpful. And as I said to Carol a little bit ago, it doesn't matter whether you use if you want to think of inhaling to shrink and exhaling to expand, or whether you want to exhale to shrink and inhale to expand. It works both ways. One will work better for you than the other.
Okay.
I recognize this is not either easy or immediately perhaps accessible, but it does happen. And it has to happen in order for not only your hip sockets to move, but virtually everything in your pelvis to move. So that when you're going out to the sides, for instance, now this, in a way, I almost don't want to do this. But Bruce did it at this point, so who am I? As you're going out to the sides, this is closing. Mm-hmm. The pelvis is closing. Everything else is opening.
So it's not close. It's closing even when you're doing the open.
This is close in the pelvis. This is open in the pelvis. This is close in the pelvis. This is open in the pelvis. It's exactly the opposite of what's happening in the arms or the upper body.
Okay.
And that goes right back to the fact that you're always trying to balance yin and yang, if you will, between not only the sides, but the top and the bottom. And a great deal of the time we have that kind of thing happening. We have a yin leg and the energy is coming up it and going out a yang arm. So with the pelvis, sometimes you open it and sometimes you close it because the pelvis is actually the big joint in your body that really tells all your other joints how to move. Your quad also does that, but it also does that for your cavities. Your quad tells the soft tissues how to open and close, but the pelvis tells the bones what to do. I'm kind of feeling maybe this is a place to stop with this.
I think maybe.
And
the quad is in the whole same area, but it's different from the pelvis.
Yes. So with the quad, you have both the quad point and the quad cavity. And they are they are certainly within the sphere of the pelvis. But the movement of the pelvis is doing something different from what the movement of the qua is. So the pelvis is relating to the movement of the bones, and the qua is relating to the movement of the soft tissue.
Are we trying to coordinate those movements? That they're operating.
Would we not?
Well, I mean, as in and out, open and close at the same time, or is it going to be opposite? Or is that the pages you're not reading?
It's a hesitation. Opening and closing is happening constantly, and yes, often, not absolutely always, but most of the time, it is happening in opposite ways in the top and bottom of the body and the left and the right of the body. So if you think about in some ways, it's almost easier to see in Tai Chi than it is in Qigong, where we really are beginning to talk about application of the movement of the energy. But very often, when you go into a strike of some sort, and I'm going to use a punch just because it's the easy one to see. This yang arm is actually being loaded with energy from a yin leg. So the yin leg is actually closing and drawing energy up, and the yang arm is opening and releasing energy out. So both are happening clearly simultaneously. So this kind of thing is also happening, of course, in Qigong. This is not just in Tai Chi. So we have to not get locked into our beginning level where we just talk about one thing happening, because multiple things are always happening. So it becomes much more complex, particularly if you try to think through it. So yes, you have to think about it to recognize what it is that's happening, but what's important is to feel it. Have I stunned you with this?
No, it's just always, for some reason, the qua is still mysterious to me. There's something
Really?
that doesn't. I don't know. I mean, it's very amorphous, and so this is so having. I mean, the pelvis. This is tricky because you don't feel that movement, but I can somehow attach it to the bones. I can have a sense of the bones. The qua is sort of something in there, but it doesn't have. I don't know that I can overthink it or even overfeel it because I'm not sure what
What's your feeling?
I'm feeling. So that always sort of complicates anything.
Yeah, as as it would, no question. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
No, it's just I had not realized that for you, and I'm kind of sorry I hadn't recognized it.
I don't know that I've articulated it quite as clearly as that before.
Because for me, the qua has always been really easy. So I probably may not have put enough emphasis on and I think particularly at this stage that it's important to begin to really be aware of the qua as a cavity. So it is an energetic place in the body that is pulsing strongly. It is a major connection point. We've talked about movement of the qua controlling movement elsewhere in the body. Well, this is obviously true energetically. And the movement of the qua isn't just the physical movement of the hip socket and the joint, although that is the result. It is the energetic movement at the qua that is really important here. And I can't I don't know that I can make it more.
Yeah. I think thinking about it more in terms of being a cavity helps.
Yeah.
It might help.
Well, as a joint, it clearly is connected to the hip socket. But as a cavity, it's a separate spot. It's related. It's it's kind of weird because this is, I think I'm right in this, that this is the only cavity that is separate from a joint that it goes by the same name. Or yeah, right. Because the qua cavity is not at the place where we feel the point of the movement. It is more, it's kind of interesting. If you were to draw a line between the dantian and the qua point, the middle of the inguinal crease, the cavity is on that line because there is definitely an energetic connection between the dantian and the cavity. But they are not in the same place. And has to be a felt thing. That's not, I can intellectually describe it, but I can't. I don't quite know how to describe it in words. The cavity feels larger to me. This is just my my experience now. I'm not trying to quote anyone else, but I feel the cavity as being larger than I do the quad joint, the quad point. And it seems more energetically powerful. I, words fail me here.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Keep playing with it.
Yeah, keep playing with it. Shelley, anything for you at the moment?
No, I think that I agree with a lot of what Carol's saying about the the quad being kind of a, well, I guess mystery is a good name for it, but it's a it's not something that I can look at. I can't touch it. I think that I know when it's working.
Uh-huh.
I have a sense of it,
Yep.
but it's still pretty amorphous for me. I think something that just takes some time.
Yep. And actually, I would say this a little bit later in the next part of this lesson that I'm not going to go to today. But the qua, well, I did sort of say it, but the qua does guide the opening and closing really throughout the whole body. It's really the leader of that energetic band, if you will. So it's really important. I don't know. I think at that point I'm going to say enough.
Yeah,
So
this
might,
requires further thought.
what?
Requires further thought.
Yeah.
And observation.
Yeah, and play with these little exercises a little, and feel your shoulders and your pelvis. Good.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do a little gods.
Sounds good.
So 6 is a good number for you, Shell?
Yeah, I start fading by the time we get to posture 6. Actually, my right arm fades.
Yeah.
The rest of me is sort of okay.
Well, that's fine. So let's just do 6 repetitions, and I'll do it with you.
Cool.
Oh, good. We're both in the camera. Good. We know. And just take a moment to stand and breathe. Feel your structure. And allow the mind to settle. And begin. was good. I might also say that the closing that we've been working on in the meditation class would be perfectly appropriate with God. If you have time, I'll just throw that one out. So, any questions come up in that?
Nope.
Good. Any woo questions?
No, I haven't done much of the woo. I've been doing more of the gods.
Woo the gods.
Ooh.
Well, we seem to manage to use most of the class for gods at the moment, so
That's okay.
understandable. So at this point, I think I'll let you go, and I will send you. I will send notes and this video should you have any desire for it. And I'll also double check the date.
Oh, yeah, good.
So it should be just continuing on, so that
No, don't go to should, because I had adjusted the schedule for the
hiatus.
and I can easily pull Tuesday and Wednesday back in because they meet every week. But I can't.
Every other week or so.
The other week or things have to work in a particular way, or I'm overwhelmed. So
yeah, and we prefer to have it one of them one week and the other the next week, and instead of having them both in the same week.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so I try to maintain that for all of us. So I will this when I have a doctor appointment and I've got to get a blood test and some shopping this afternoon, so I won't promise all of this until maybe this evening, but I'll get it out to you.
Well, we don't have to show up anywhere until next Thursday.
Right. And you're
plenty of time.
Next Thursday either.
Well, not this Thursday, but the week from Thursday.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, Shell. Have a good day.
Well, my day will end with Auntie Jean.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm taking her to a doctor appointment.
Oh, God.
Goes, and then we can go to dinner after. Yes.
Oh, what fun.
Yep. There we go.
Do you know where you're going to dinner?
No, but we'll be in Norwich. There's plenty of places to eat. And I'm hoping by me going, I can get her to ask her doctor for a referral to a podiatrist. She has diabetes, and she really needs to have a doctor do her nails.
Ah.
But that doesn't seem to get through the brick wall. It is impervious to anything I say.
Social Security will pay for it.
I know. But, she's 90. This Sunday, she's 90.
Another visit to a doctor.
Right.
Can she move her legs well enough to reach her toes to cut her own?
No, she tried cutting her toenails a number of months ago and just hacked them to pieces. And then she wouldn't go to a doctor because her toenails were such a mess. She didn't want anybody to see them.
Oops.
Yeah.
No, I just.
Well.
And that impacts her walking because it impacts how her shoes are fitting.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll see if I can get through to her today.
Well, if anybody can, you can. Shelley.
No, if anybody can, it's some perfect stranger in a diner.
Yeah.
Well, have you talked to Carol about it? She's not a perfect stranger, but she might have more influence.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Have a good day, everybody.
You too.
Have
Thanks.
a good Auntie Jean visit.
Oh, yeah, we will. Take care.
I'm sure you'll come back with stories.
Always, always.
Always.
Well, she's amusing.
Yeah. Bye.